TikTok time to rock. It's the Sunday show here on the channel, folks. It's the 5150 Rankin the tracks. And did you guys notice I tagged you in a couple of posts a couple of hours ago, that wonderful graphic that John ZD351 did a couple of years ago with us and for us. And during the course of the show, bro, I will, and Simon, the Rock Professor, I'll get that up in case people have missed that, because that's just wonderful.
I saw it.
I saw it pop up.
Yeah. I'll get that up for us for people to reminisce. That was 3 years ago when he did that, Rock Professor.
Already.
Where are those years gone? Wow.
Where are those? Mate, that's a title of a song, Brad.
Well, I'm going to claim it. It's mine.
Some other good news too that I tagged my co-hosts into, folks, too. If you're not following us on Instagram, it's probably a good opportunity for me to remind you that we do have some presence over there. I'll call out those account names for you shortly, but the long-awaited, anticipated Led Zeppelin film, Brad.
Yes. Oh, look. Is it actually coming out, Andrew? Like,
it's coming.
It's. I mean, I keep getting told it's coming. But when is this damn thing coming? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So let's pray that it comes out very shortly. Yeah, let's pray.
Well, it was an official Led Zeppelin account that released the poster, so it's got to be coming, Simon. Led Zeppelin wouldn't do that, would they?
No, I think that, as usual, they'll be taking it. You know, that's what they normally do, isn't it? Take a long run up at these things. You know. So.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's quite frustrating. I mean, just get it out. Come on, we want to watch it.
Well, you know, we've mentioned this many times, guys, on the channel, haven't we? You know, besides talking about albums, you know, which is the main nuts and bolts of what we do here. We do love spending a few hours, don't we, chinwagging about some great films and, you know, DVDs that have come out over the years. And we are looking forward to, we've mentioned it last week, guys, the Beatles one that's coming out in a couple of weeks' time, Brad. And then obviously Rock Professor, Led Zeppelin, who we completely, utterly adore in all facets and forms.
Yes. Yes.
Did I mention I saw them in 1975?
Push you.
All right, I said about that. Did I mention that?
You know what? Yeah, you know what I'm going to call him, man. I'm not going to call him Rock Professor anymore. I'm going to call him Mr. 1975.
It's already been taken, hasn't it?
Yes. No, we're very envious that you got to go and see that. I must admit, I'm still pretty envious.
I know. Yeah, I was having a joke with Derek Clacton on Insta chat. Did I mention I went to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, enough posting.
Living on 50-year-old glories, it's not very good, is it? Really?
Enough posting. Enough posting, would you?
Yeah, well, look, we do look forward to that, though, guys. You know, I don't know how they're going to release that, whether it's going to be some kind of cinema. I suspect, well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. So, guys, if you please, Simon, Rock Professor, and anybody in the chat, if you hear of anything about how they're going to release it or any release dates, if you can tag myself, Brad, and the Rock Professor on Instagram, you'll see our accounts down there. Easy peasy Japanesey. Brad Cook Music on Instagram. The Rock Professor, Simon Williams, 33. John ZD351, he's there as well, our brother in arms. And also Zach Zedris, a very, very good friend of the channel. He's over there as well. So, I don't know. But obviously, we're going to have to get somehow to watch it, the three of us, and then spend 3 hours talking about it.
3 hours. 3 hours more.
Look, I know that we didn't mention this obviously in the green room before we went live, guys, but it's going to be good because Jimmy Page and the Led Zeppelin boys, from what I have picked up on, are involved in it. So it's going to be good, and it will be factual, Brad. It won't be bullshit.
Let's pray that it's as good as I hope it will be. You know what I mean? I'm hoping it'll be informative, maybe a few things that we don't actually know, you know, not just rehashing a lot of the stuff that we've known and read and stuff. I'm hoping there'll be little bits of footage we might not have ever seen before as well, but we don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the scripted part of the channel. The scripted part. The Rock Professor's going to do a shout out to you guys all in the chat, but also he's going to mention some news that's happened this week. But Brad, again, if you've been following Brad on Instagram, you'll see that he's been somewhere. Brad,
went to the casino last night to watch a fellow Doors fanatic band up there, tribute band called Doors Alive. They're from the UK. So they're from Simon's neck of the woods, I think, somewhere around there. I don't know. You should go and check them out at some point, Simon. They're very good. I know the singer and I in that band, we've been chatting on and off over the years. About 5 years ago, my son, I took him along to watch them, and they pulled him up on stage and danced around, and he sang a little bit of Roadhouse with them and stuff like that. And you know, nice. we were quite fortunate enough to get along to that show. He invited us along, so we went along, and myself, Jackie, and my son went, and they were shocked to see my son, like double the size in height, and yeah, it was a lovely, a mesmerizing experience to watch them guys. You know, he has to be, without a doubt, you know, the best Jim Morrison impersonator I've ever seen or ever witnessed. So he's very good. So if you don't know or you've never seen them before or whatever, go check them out. Doors Alive. They're from the UK. They got an Instagram. I might even share it in the chat so you can go check them out. But they're brilliant. They're worth going to see if you haven't seen them. They're touring around Australia at the moment. I think they're halfway through their tour. But yeah, they tour all around the world. That's basically their full-time job. So go check them out.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, in the absence of the, I suppose it's a bit like the Australian Pink Floyd, isn't it? They were huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these bigger tribute shows are touring the world. I mean, you know, it's what happens these days, because there's what do you call it? There used to be an influx of really good rock bands to go watch, and it doesn't seem to be the way anymore. I mean, I don't want to knock, you know, modern day bands, but there doesn't seem to be a lot out there that's sort of setting the world on fire. There's a lot of old bands still touring, but you know, it's good to see good quality tribute bands. You can go watch them, and you can like go step back in time a little bit. It's a bit of fun. Definitely worth going and check out Doors Alive from the UK.
Cheers, bro.
My plug.
Hey.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thanks for obviously, you know, one of the good reasons, you know, folks, why you need to be following Brad on Instagram, and you know, so you can keep up with these little bits of information, so that when you go live with us, it's all, you know it all.
No, yes, that's right.
I'll get their links and I'll throw them in the chat as well. So yeah, all good.
Rock Professor, some music royalty, I suppose we should call him.
Yeah, definitely. What and yeah, we should we note the passing of Quincy Jones this week. The great American producer, songwriter, composer, arranger, film and television producer. Didn't do much in his life, did he? In his 91 years that he was alive. All the way from his jazz stuff in the 50s, touring with Lionel Hampton, and stuff with Miles Davis, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, you name it. He's produced them, played with them, and clearly probably his most well-known thing is Michael Jackson. His association with Michael Jackson, Thriller, and those. But yeah, he died this week, age 91. So hats off to Quincy Jones, and a long and illustrious career in music.
He's the one who got Eddie Van Halen on Beat It.
Yeah, see, and
he did, bro. He did.
Yeah,
phone call.
Yeah.
And as we know from the show that we did here on the channel, the fine show that we did with some great guests a couple of weeks ago, caused a lot of concern and division in the Van Halen camp, Brad.
Yes. Yes. I I don't know how to, the Chris Gill. I mean, after hearing him talk about it, yeah, my opinion of that book's changed a little bit, Andrew. So I don't want to sort of go ratting it out, but there's some little good parts in the book that are like little nuggets that we've never heard before. You know what I mean? But if you've read Eruption, you're going to read a good portion of the book. Let's just put it that way.
Well, the sad thing about it, Simon and Brad, from my perspective, is it's $50, $57, $60 with postage. Simon, at the end of the day, it's only worth $30 because it's factually incorrect.
Yes, that's quite annoying, isn't it? Yes, the fact that somebody hasn't fact checked it is quite annoying on a lot of levels. But I don't know. To me, as an outsider, and as you know, this is not really my thing particularly. But it seems to me that it's entirely in keeping with the Van Halens that really there wasn't really anything in that book that there wasn't really any huge insight really beyond the fact they grew up as brothers and things. But seemingly from the shows I've watched with you guys and Chris Gill, and great shows, and we got some great views out of those things. That seemed to be it. It seemed to be I'm retelling the story, but it's a story that everyone knows, or you guys in the Van Halen world know intimately. Lots of great those interviews with Chris Gill and the other books, Greg Renoff and Steve Rosen, let's mention them, they've all written books, so to be honest, the way that the Van Halen seem to run the band, that would be in keeping with it, to be honest. I don't know if that's fair, but that's my feeling about it, is that you weren't going to get anything particularly kind of, I don't know, scurrilous or but you weren't going to get anything kind of great insightful stuff into the creative process or whatever else.
Well, Simon, I think you're right. You've hit the nail on the head there. Brad said it before, and he'll probably keep saying it. There were definitely some insights, Rock Professor. Let's be clear.
Okay,
there were some insights, but not on every page. But I'll tell you one thing, though, guys, and I'm sure that this book, where it's ended, and the reaction to this book, it's definitely going to open up Alex Van Halen to doing part 2, Brad. I'm convinced.
You reckon he'll do a book not called Brothers and call it something else, and then release that as like I don't know. For some reason, I think he's covered all the David Lee Roth era. So pretty much, unless he's got more content that he wants to talk about in relation to David Lee Roth, maybe he'll do a book called Van Halen, the years, separate years or what, I don't know, and release like more David Lee Roth stuff, more Sammy stuff, Gary stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows? I highly doubt it, Andrew, that he'll do anything on Sammy.
I'm pretty sure they will.
You reckon?
I think they will. I think they'll do a history of Van Halen from '84 onwards. They have to.
I hope so. I hope you're right, because to be honest with you, I kind of felt like I mentioned it. Felt like a big chunk of why I love Van Halen's just been completely ignored.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for deviating away again, guys.
We do this for the first 10, 15 minutes, so that's pretty normal.
But yeah, you're right. Quincy Jones certainly responsible for getting Eddie Van Halen on one of the greatest albums ever recorded. Thriller is a masterpiece. It certainly is. And I've mentioned this a few times. Everybody that I knew was listening to Thriller, whether you were a metalhead, or a teeny bopper, or a rock and roller. You couldn't sidestep Thriller and what that album was doing in the early 80s. So rest in peace, Quincy Jones. And you're right, Rock Professor, about his jazz credentials. I remember watching a film. It may have been Bird, the life of Larry. Who was the great
Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker. And I think there's a reference there where Miles Davis is trying to sneak him into a club, and he's underage. So definitely hung out with the jazz greats. So, and I didn't realise he was that old, Simon. So well done, 91. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, yes.
Rock Professor, do you want to do a shout out?
Yes, I think we should. A few people. We have Greg Roberts tune. Morning, Greg. Hope you're well. Nice to see you. Ellen, of course. Good morning, Ellen. Johnny Heartbreaker. Morning, Johnny. Yes, you failed to turn me into a Van Halen nut, Johnny. I'm sorry. Maybe too late for me. And somebody called Vitor Hugo Biasotto Maciera. I may have got close to that. May not have. Vitor, welcome. I've not seen your name before. Welcome. I think he lives in Brazil, which is lovely. So I think that's everyone that's made a comment. If you want me to say hi, make a comment, and I will. But good to see you all, and I hope you're all well out there in YouTube land.
Thank you, Rock Professor, for doing that. So thank you, folks, for joining us this week on this episode here on the channel. I picked it, and I was mentioning to the guys here in the green room after listening to it on the second day that I probably picked, in the best way that we can describe it between the three of us at this early stage, a monochromatic album. We have had the pleasure of doing one unplugged album on the channel already, and that was Eric Clap. Okay. Two. Okay, we've done two.
Who else did we do?
Eric Clapton?
Yeah, we've done Eric. Who else have we done?
I do not remember.
Look, Paul McCartney. We did Paul McCartney's.
Did we?
Yeah, pretty sure we have. Yeah, I'm sure we have.
I remember doing that. Although, let me
I remember doing it. That's worrying. I remember doing it.
I don't remember doing it, but let me say this. I don't remember doing a few other albums we've already done as well, because I went, shit, I'm going to do that album next. I went, bloody hell, we've done that one. So, yeah, we've done that many albums. It is easy to forget. I will say that.
Okay, folks. So I'm a good reason, folks, young folks, for you don't do drugs, because you forget things that you've done in the past. So if you want to have a A1 memory, do not do drugs or excess in alcohol, and you'll be fine.
Can we do the channel at some point and have a look? Because I can't remember.
But we have done at least one unplugged album that I can recall, and that was the Eric Clapton album. So, you don't get a lot to talk about when it's one kind of format, but we've decided amongst the three of us that we'll go ahead and talk about it. one of the reasons why I particularly picked it, I mentioned it to you guys before. You know, I caught up with some friends and we did a couple of versions of Lead Belly's Where Did You Sleep Last Night, which is always Nirvana's version of it for a lot of us. That brought the attention, at least to my circle of friends, to Lead Belly's version, even though we had heard of Lead Belly. So, you know, in honour, I've got my acoustic guitar there. Brad's got his acoustic guitar. I see tucked there behind those Marshalls.
Yep.
Thank you guys for allowing me specifically to indulge myself with this recording. Just a couple of things before we go live, talking about it between the three of us. Recorded in 93, late 93, and released, Brad, 7 or 8 months after Kurt passed away, November 1994, according to Mr. Wikipedia. Go and check out the Wikipedia article, because I do cheat a lot and go and see what Mr. Wikipedia says about a lot of the things that we talk about. And Mr. Wikipedia is pretty on point with information about this album if you want to go and check it out, as opposed to some of the other albums that we've done. And I'm not surprised, Brad and Simon, when you consider how many followers Nirvana and Kurt Cobain have on Instagram. You know, their YouTube channel is in 10 million followers. You know, so they are huge as far as wielding some kind of influence today. And again, Brad and the Rock Professor, when I was going through my notes this morning with my morning coffee, 1994, 2004, Brad, 30 years ago. This album came out this month, 30 years ago, bro.
Yes. You picked it well, Andrew. You picked it well. I mean, this is a, you know, after listening to this record this week, because I haven't listened to it for at least a decade, I reckon, this album. At least, I reckon. It's been that long. It's easy for 10 years to fly by it, isn't it? You know what I mean? But it's got a legacy, this record. The actual performance, the live video, the MTV performance itself. I remember when it came out, and I remember how haunting and how how moving it was, considering they were a band that were very distorted and very, over the top, in contrasting in light. I mean, they always had that contrast in light and shape, but they were always intense, always heavy, big drumming, big guitars, and they were like a Generation X kind of thing, going on. And
you nailed it.
I remember this album coming out, and it was all acoustic. It was a haunting sort of feel to the, and I remember after Kurt Cobain passed, he sadly took his life, and I remember this album became even more powerful because of it's sort of like a farewell. Makes sense. Yeah,
exactly, and that was the approach that my friends and I had at the time when this album came out. So just to paint a bit of a picture, 30 years ago, my friends and I were listening to Pearl Jam's. They've had 3 albums by, I think, Vitology had been out, so 3 or 4 albums. We'd just seen them or getting ready to see them in 1995. Nirvana had come out. Nevermind was a huge hit. I had friends and myself, listening to that album, playing some of the songs, pretty easy tunes to play. And when news came out that they were going to do an Unplugged, it was like, wow, this is interesting, But, it was an epitaph, I suppose, for a lot of us, wasn't it? Listening to this album. It wasn't until a little bit later on that I saw the footage of the whole concert. It would have been probably years later. The local music channels here were showing videos, the 2 or 3 videos that they'd released, Brad and Simon, associated with this album. but it was kind of eerie. You know, if you go and check out what Mr. Wikipedia says and in their biographies, you know, how Kurt wanted lilies, which is, you know, a funeral flower, black candles, Simon. You know, it was, you know, yeah, it was kind of set up, you know, I'm not going to say fortuitous, but, you know, it was kind of eerie.
Yeah.
So I urge you, if you're watching this on replay, if you've checked out Spotify, please do go and check out the videos. They're all over YouTube. Thankfully, they haven't copyrighted this, Simon. So there's a lot of channels that have got this for you to go and check out. But I certainly remember, Simon, when this album came out in 1994. It was an album, Brad, that we were listening to. So it was one of those albums that you could play on your CD or your cassette in between Soundgarden and Nirvana and Pearl Jam, Brad. And putting this in was the perfect contrast.
Yeah, 100%. This is an album that you know, you put on around in this time frame when it came out. Like you'd say, for example, you're driving home after a gig or a late night out, you know, and you put this album on to drive home and listen to, and it's got the songs, you know, a bit more that sort of laid back acoustic vibe. But I found that when Kurt passed, I actually listened to this album a lot more than I did when he was present. Sadly, but it was, in retrospect, you know, it was very raw and warming. I mean, I remember watching it the first time I watched it, and I thought Kurt's communication between songs and his interactions and stuff like that he was very much an introvert. And but then watching back after he passed, it's very apparent that he's a man in pain. He's got a lot of stuff going on there, which is...
Thanks for mentioning that, because it's important, you know, that people have to be aware of that. And you know, you got to remember too that in a couple of the biographies they go into some detail, you know, that he was you know, during the rehearsals he was in withdrawal from drug use, so he had to go clearly and take some kind of, you know, drug, some kind of something, Simon, to get him up to speed for him to do this performance.
Yeah, cups of tea.
Well, that's what the Beatles used to do, and we saw them, you know, on that Let It Be film, Brad. You know, often they were having cups of tea, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah. A nice cup of tea.
But I suspect something probably a little bit more for Kurt. But yeah, and we didn't know this at the time. You know, we had no idea that, you know, that this was going on, because so if this was recorded end of 93, so it's about 5 months before he passed away, Brad.
Yeah. Pretty sad, really. I mean, he was obviously going through a lot at that time. You know what I mean? There was a lot going on for him, so...
So thank you guys for allowing me to pick this. So I've already mentioned how I came across the album. Brad and Rock Professor, I'll get you to quickly talk about, you know, your experiences, Brad, with this album, Rock Professor, and we'll kick off the album.
Yeah. Well, mine was, you know, when it came out, I was a fan of Nirvana. First song I ever learned on guitar, I've mentioned on the channel before, was "Smells Like Teen Spirit." You know, learning properly songs. That's the first one I actually learned. I was a big fan of Nevermind when it came out, and In Utero. Obviously, when this album came out, it was. I remember watching it on MTV, and I was like, "Wow, this is very raw. It's very moving. There's a lot of honesty there up front." And then obviously once Kurt passed, I started to see it was more of an intimate portrayal of, you know, portrait of Kurt Cobain, where he was at that present point in time. You know, it was very raw. The whole, you know, I won't sort of give away my rankings too much, but I think you can really see in this performance between the songs and interactions and stuff like that. He is a troubled soul, and it's very sad to watch it after his passing. At the time, I was confused watching it, going, "Is he all there like this?" But then I understood why he was like that between songs and talking. And his communication with the band and everything was, he was trying to be funny at one point. I've forgotten who it was. They said that was pretty good. Sounded pretty good. He goes, "Shut up," like as a joke. But it's very. My experience with the album was, I was obviously still more of a fan of them electric, but it was great to hear them acoustically and hear the songs in there, probably the way they were written in that format. Let's be honest. I think Kurt wrote most of his songs on an acoustic guitar, I'd say. Simon.
Yeah. I mean, I was around and saw the performance when it came out, but I haven't really listened to it. I don't own it in my record collection. Greg, no worries, mate. It's not for everybody. Nothing's for everybody. We should say good morning to Gary Davlin as well, who's not a name I recognise, but welcome, Gary. Nice to see you. And so this has been quite a new kind of exploration for me, going back into it and kind of looking at it afresh. But which has been great. I just because I do these things idly, is that it's 30 years ago. 30 years before 1994 is 1964. And 1964 had Hard Day's Night. The times they are changing. Beatles for Sale. So it's like the difference between Beatles for Sale to Nirvana is a long musical journey, probably longer than the one we've had in the last 30 years as well.
Yeah.
Just see how far back you go. It's amazing how far away we are.
Those 30 years have gone so quick too. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Without quite the creative arc that it was in those 30 years, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we certainly look forward to talking about this album because, at the end of the day, if you talk about influences and a lot of the bands and artists that we do talk about, Brad and Simon, over the years, like Led Zeppelin, for example, we spent 15 minutes talking about them at the top of the show. Look how many artists they've influenced, and let's give credit where credit is due. Kurt Cobain and Nirvana are responsible for influencing over the last 30 years lots and lots of people. And, guys like myself, here's my Jag here, Brad. It's got humbuckers. I put some humbuckers in just recently. Took the single coils out. It's my homage to Nirvana. And one of the great things about this band too, and Rock Professor would be fully on board with this because we've spoken about this. The good thing with Nirvana is that it's all bar chords. You can play 50% of their songs by playing bar chords, so it was really easy. They had that simplicity, Simon, that punk ethos of 3 chords.
Yeah.
And listening to music. So, there's some great films out there, some documentaries on Kurt and the rest of the guys in the band. They did their rock and roll pedigree, Brad. They went and listened to the Stones, the Beatles. Kurt was a big Beatles fan, John Lennon fan. They knew what they were doing, but they took that attitude, Brad and Simon, and said, let's go and play music. We've got 3 chords.
Yeah.
I mentioned in some of my rankings the Beatle-ish vibes happening. So, I won't spoil it too much, but I agree with you there, Andrew. He was obviously a big Lennon fan. And, you can tell that in his songwriting as well, I reckon.
100%. 100%. So I do look forward then to hearing what you have to say. So we're going to kick it off. So we're following the order, obviously, on Spotify, which is the consistent order. There's a few songs, there's a few tracks for us, but, we'll fly through them. So if you're here at the 35-minute mark, we're pretty well on schedule. We're normally tittle-tattle for about 25, 30 minutes. So tittle tattling. So the first track, guys, is about a girl. And you don't need Wikipedia for this. Kurt tells you exactly what album this track came off, and he also tells you that a lot of people don't have that album. So good plug, Brad, from back then to get people to go and buy their first album, Bleach. Well done, Kurt.
I'm pretty sure
yeah. That was his hashtag. You know, most people don't have this album, so go and check it out. I'll be honest with you guys, and I'm going to rank this, I suppose, a little bit from my first moments of hearing it, a little bit like we did the week before's album. I was really surprised with how good Kurt sounded on this opening track with these so-called acoustic instruments. So let's just clear up a couple of things too. So if you watch the video, you can see Dave Grohl, playing with a brush, and that sounds really, really great. You can see Chris Novalisk playing the acoustic bass. That sounds incredible on this track. And then, and we've got a picture of it that we'll show during halftime of Kurt playing his Martin, his D18, going through his Fender amp. So he's got, so in my opinion, it's still an acoustic album, even though he's going through his Fender amp. So that was just something that he wanted to do. He wasn't keen to go up and get mic'd, Brad. He didn't like that. He liked the security apparently of just plugging into an amp. So that was fine. And it doesn't take away that mystique, because if you're familiar with a lot of Unplugged albums over the years, lots of acts did that, didn't they? They plugged into amps at various levels of their performance. But I love the brush with Dave Grohl. It just creates that acoustic vibe. But the seal for me on that opening track is definitely the acoustic bass. It's just a fantastic instrument. It comes through really, really clear. And I was surprised on that opening track, Brad and Simon, how good he sounded. So I won't say any more. I'll pass it over to the Rock Professor. I've given this opening track 8 out of 10. Never a skip, Rock Professor.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that one of the things we're going to talk about, lots of we're going to talk about here. I think Chris Novoselic's bass playing is great on this record. I think he has a particular style, and it's one of the standout things on it for sure. And I think this is a good example, straight in with it. It's got a really nice bass line, and really it adds a lot extra melodically, as well as just kind of keeping the beat kind of thing, which is good, as you've said. That Dave Grohl using brushes and things, and that kind of electroacoustic thing that Kurt does. I think the kind of upbeat melody contrasts with the kind of lyrics, bittersweet lyrics, and that kind of stripped down arrangement brings out the song's vulnerability, and it's I quite difficult to know what to say, because they're quite straightforward. These songs, quite stripped down, straightforward. We should note that Pat Smear is on acoustic guitar from the Foo Fighters. So I too gave it 8 out of 10, but a good opener. Gives you what you're going to get, and I think choosing quite a tuneful song from an early album is that's a good move. Yeah, absolutely. Brad,
I've always loved this song. I love the Bleach version of it. I don't think I actually owned Bleach until I'd bought all the Nirvana albums, and then I bought Bleach and got into Bleach a little bit later. Kurt was still alive, but it wasn't long before he took his life that I got Bleach. But I think I've always loved this song. I love the bass line in it. It's very cool. I think the acoustic guitars sound fantastic, like that, that sort of vibe. The acoustic bass, Chris's bass playing and sound. I love Dave Grohl drumming, full stop. I've always loved his drumming, but I love how dynamic he is. His use of the brushes just gives it the whole song a complete different vibe. It's got I put here Beatle-ish pop folk vibe for a song that's like a pop song, a pop punk song, really. Let's be honest. And it just goes to show, I think this song probably was written on an acoustic guitar. If it wasn't, it was written with a clean electric guitar. I think that it's got that sort of vibe, warm, accessible, stripped down sort of sound to it. And this arrangement of it, it's a catchy song. And there's sort of introspective sort of lyrics that shine through. So I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip, and a great way to open the gig. I think, it's a great way to start the gig. And, Kurt's little plug at the end, like you mentioned, Andrew, that's, made everyone rush out and buy it if they didn't already have it.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Rock Professor. And we've got Ellen in the chat as ever, Rankin, and she too, Brad, has given this track a 9 out of 10 as well. Great opening, and she loves the acoustic guitar too. And we do. We're all fans here, clearly, of the acoustic instrument. So it's just has its own vibe, and for us to be talking about it, I suppose on a full whole album, it's probably something special for us. And Johnny's right. Kurt was heavily influenced by the Sex Pistols. That can-do attitude, that get-out-there attitude that the Sex Pistols had. They were famous, and they had a guy from America who couldn't play the bass, and that didn't stop them, did it? So he looked cool, Brad. He looked good, so let's get him on stage.
It's all about the look. It's all about the look. We know
that. The second track is Come As You Are. So if you're a Nirvana fan or an early 90s rock fan, you'll be familiar with this, because this is the mega blockbuster hit that was everywhere. It was being played everywhere, Brad and Simon. Everybody who was anybody was listening to this track, and at least the electric version of it, which came out on Nevermind, which is a masterpiece in itself that Brad mentioned earlier. One of the great things about this track that I liked is clearly you can hear the intro, and it's identifiable, Brad and Simon. It's to the record. There's no interpretation going on there. I like that. We've mentioned earlier Kurt was playing through his Martin into his Fender amp. He liked that, and that gave us an opportunity, at least on this song and moving forward with others, for Kurt to bust out some of the soloing, that he wasn't particularly well known for. But I think we got an appreciation of him back in '94 as a bit of a soloist after listening to this album. So if that makes any kind of sense. I love the solo on this track, and he's backed up with by acoustic on these first early tracks by Pat Smear, who was touring with them at that time. So he was unofficially, Brad, a Nirvana, right?
Yes.
So he knew these songs. Playing a who was that guy from Bakerfield? That country guy, playing his signature acoustic guitar. Buck Owens, playing a Buck Owens. Yeah. Playing a Buck Owens acoustic guitar. Guys, I've given this 9 out of 10. Great version of a outstanding culturally important song for the early 90s. Rock Professor.
It's interesting, isn't it, what you say that they took the intro is the sound of it is pretty much the sound of it on the Nevermind, which is kind of chorus. I don't know if it's chorus kind of bass to it. Just a bit of fun. you'll probably know that it's based on the English band Killing Joke's 1985 single 80s. Have you listened to that? Which in itself is very similar to the Damned "Life Goes On" as well, which is it's great fun to take the genesis of these riffs and take them back. So, Johnny, to wit your comment about the Sex Pistols, it's very close to the Damned. "Life Goes On," which is it's quite fun to go back and see the etymology of this thing. It's fun, but yes, I mean, I think that it's a good move just to keep that opening like it is on the record, and see there's instant recognition there. As you say, it's a two guitars thing, isn't it, and a little solo in the middle kind of thing. But it's the second hit after "Smells Like Teen Spirit," huge off Nevermind. So it brings a kind of bit more introspective, I think, if you're playing it on acoustic and stuff, and there's a kind of haunting quality to it that is interesting. So good. I gave it a 9 out of 10 too. Andrew, never a skip from me either. Brad.
"Come As You Are" is probably one of my favorite songs off Nevermind. It always used to give me goosebumps when that started, and obviously the passing of Kurt, this song became a bit difficult to listen to for a little bit if you were a big Nirvana fan, because the line about the gun and it sort of thing, that there was a bit more impact maybe, but in the lyrical content, where he goes, "I don't have a gun," sort of looking at it now, it's it's a bit more haunting. It's got a haunting undertone to that line, I guess. The acoustic guitars, the bass, Dave Grohl's drumming, with that lighter touch. The arrangement is slower, but it's got pretty much the same, like you mentioned, Simon, the solo, the acoustic guitars, the little chorusy effect on everything there. I think it's a great version of the song. I mean, this is, whether Kurt wrote on electric or acoustic, it could have been either way, but it does transition to acoustics and that vibe 100%. I gave it 10 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. It's a great song. And I think it's one of Nirvana's finest, well-written and arranged songs.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. So I'm going to do a plug now then for folks to go and check out the making of Nevermind.
Yeah.
It's on 4 different installments on various YouTube channels. It's well worth it. Butch Fig was the producer, and we all love these making of documentaries because they give you some insight into what was going on behind the scenes that you kind of take for granted. Yeah, definitely go and check it out. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, Brad. So, well done. The next track, again, we have Kurt introducing for us the song. Jesus Doesn't Want Me as a Sunbeam, a Vaseline song, he reminds us. A Scottish band up around where the rock professor lives. According to...
Jim is now going, he doesn't live anywhere near me.
Yeah. According to a couple of sources that I've read, there's 2 or 3 different versions, guys, of Nirvana playing this song a couple of years before it was recorded on this. So it was well established, Brad, in their repertoire. Which surprised me when I was doing research for the show, because I was sure that they picked this song for this gig, but evidently they didn't. So one of those poppy kind of great songs. Go and check out the original Vaseline's version, and it's pretty faithful to that, Brad and Simon. So I kind of like that, they're not doing an interpretation. But what's really, really great about this, and if you go and watch the video, you'll see Chris playing the accordion. And I remember when I first heard it, I wondered who played the accordion. We never saw the video, Brad. So when I found out that it was Chris, it was like, wow, And I remember distinctly having a conversation with a couple of my friends at the time, and they're saying, "Why are you surprised, Andrew?" Because in the States, in some parts of America, like here in New Zealand, playing the flute, the recorder was a standard instrument that you played at state schools. So playing the accordion for some of these people in some of the high schools was a standard instrument that you played. So it wouldn't have been unusual for these guys to play. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. But anyway, I digress with that. But I love the way that Chris just brings that into the song. And for me, that little instrument makes the song for me. I love it. Love Kurt's vocals, very gentle and very subdued on this track, Rock Professor. And again, if you're back listening to this in 1994, it's a little bit of a shock for Nirvanaites to sort of get the ears around, because, you don't associate Kurt with this gentleness, with this vulnerability that Brad was talking about. He was prepared in 1993 to reveal himself. And if you read or listen to anything about artists, when they say they go and perform acoustically, it's this vulnerability that some of them don't like giving too much. I've given this 9 out of 10, Simon.
Yeah, it's I think that it's several quite interesting things. First of all, I think that the accordion, you've got to have a kind of, the accordion is the hook on here for me. If you're doing a straightforward acoustic album, then you have to introduce things that give each song a different tint, if you like, a different musical feel to them. And the accordion is definitely a thing that brings something else to this. The other thing I'd say about it is that it's a kind of classic 3-chord thing, that not the sort of thing that Nirvana did very much. They played different chords, didn't they? They didn't just do the 1-4-5 chord business. And whereas this is a that 3-chord classic 3-chord pop sensibility thing. It's got a great tune, and it's and I think that they do a fantastic job with it. And I think that's the fact that the Vaseline song is called "Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam." So clearly Nirvana changed it to "Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam." So I don't know if there's a sort of anti-religious subtext in that for some reason, or a rejection thing. I'm not sure, but it seems significant that that they changed the title. They changed the title of it and things. But yeah, I think that it's a change from the first 2 songs, which are much more typical Nirvana in style in terms of chord structures and things. Whereas, as I say, this is a much more straightforward, straightforward thing. And I think that it's a 9 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. It is, I think it's as I say, for that tune thing, it's definitely a thing. Brad.
Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam, the Vaseline's cover I've got. For me, this was the first time I heard this. I was a little surprised, I will admit, that they were doing this sort of song. And I'd like both of you mentioned, it was a little bit different for them doing something like this. I've never heard them play a song like this before. I think the accordion gives it that folk-like quality. It's light on strumming, like the rhythm guitar is very light on the and the vocal, like Kurt's vocal, is it's melancholic. I mean, it's I don't know. It feels like there's a little bit of aggression in there at times. but it's softened by that accordion, you know, and I don't know. For me, this was I distinctly remember when I got this album, I used to skip this song, but the last week or so that I've been listening to this, I've actually really enjoyed it. And so my point being, I probably would have given this a 5 or a 6 back in the day. I've got to be completely honest. But I gave it an 8 out of 10 and never a skip. But that's no disrespect. You know, my musical taste back then were very different. I like guitars and drums and bass and this sort of thing. It's like even with Zeppelin, Zeppelin 3 grew on me more and more through the years. More so, I used to skip certain tracks on Zeppelin 3 because they're acoustic, you know, and I don't now. So our musical tastes do change, and you know, I think it's a great song. 8 out of 10, never a skip, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Alan. Thank you for ranking that. The next track, boys, is The Man Who Sold the World, and we get another cover, you know, a Bowie song. If you were familiar with Bowie back in '94, you probably knew the song, but I do know, again, a couple of people that went on and followed Bowie after this song. And I have to tell you, what a nice surprise it was listening to this. It's an outstanding cover, and I love that riff. The riff is just incredible on this track, and the solo is amazing. Brad and Simon played through a fuzz. It's just incredible. And again, Brad, you know, this song has a long history in the band. You know, one of the artists that they were listening to in Seattle, Simon, when they were locked away for 6 months of the year. You know, Bowie hugely influential on a lot of acts and artists, and we've been fortunate on the channel, folks, to rank a couple of Bowie albums. So you know, you got to make a plug when you can, guys. Look, I love this. I still do. Simon, it's one that they play often on classic radio off this album, and when I hear it, I love it. In fact, I probably like it more than the original version, I have to say, and that's saying something. And I've given this 10 out of 10, and I want to do a special shout out because we've got Carl in the chat.
Yes.
One of the treasured cuts of this milestone. And he's a big Bowie fan. I know that. So, yeah, good to see you, bro. Long time no see. We'll talk during the week, bro. I've given this 10 out of 10, Rock Professor and Brad, and I do look forward to what you guys have to say about this track. Simon.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's I mean, I'm familiar with it from from the early '70s, so it's kind of part of my musical firmament since then, really. So I think that, yes, I don't have much really to add. I think I'd say that the interesting thing to me is the cello bit as well, because again, that's that introduction of another instrument, a new instrument, which is going to play much more of a part in later songs. So I think that bringing that in and using that as a kind of as a new kind of mood instrument, and I think it does give it a sense of kind of melancholy. That cello and the way they use it on these tracks is particularly good. Pat Smear plays rhythm guitar on it. I think it's pretty faithful to the original, actually, in many ways. But and I think that that reflection on less the sense of lost identity and existential crisis is kind of that Bowie was talking about is fits perfectly in with Cobain's mental state here, I think, in many ways. So as you said earlier, Brad, I think it's kind of a a lot of the songs on here do represent that and do give an insight into his mental state, and I think this is one of them, although it's a cover. An excellent cover as well. It's kind of kind of, it's quite understated and kind of, it's not, as you say, with acoustic instruments, it is going to be understated. But I think, they all fit. And I think particularly the cello is a particularly, good instrument to add into this mix, really bring something to it. I too gave it 9 out of 10. Never a skip from me. Brad.
Yeah, look, the massive Bowie fan here, and I've always known the Bowie version, and when this song came out, and it's still played on radio now, but when it came out on radio, I was like, my head turned every time I heard it, because I have to admit, like Andrew, I think I started to enjoy this one more so than the Bowie version. And even when I played with a UK performer doing a Bowie show here in Australia, we actually played this song, and I just couldn't get this version out of my head. And at the start of the guitar solo, where Kurt sort of fluffs the start of the solo up, like it fits, it's perfect. It doesn't matter. Fluffs it up a little bit. I love how he says he's going to mess it up. Is it this song at the start? He gets things going to mess. I can't remember. Actually, it might be another one, but I think the guitars sound great in this. The bass and drums. I mean, I've got to say, Chris is an amazing bass player. I don't know, if it's fact that he loves Paul McCartney's bass playing, but I pick up a lot of Paul McCartney's bass playing throughout all Nirvana songs. That's there. You can hear that influence.
He
there.
says it, bro. He says it himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember whether I've heard him say it or not, but even though he's playing the bass line pretty much like to the song, but he puts more of a McCartney feel on it. I can't explain it. McCartney's got a certain way of playing bass, and Krista's got a certain way, which is very similar. I love the bass on this song. I think it's fantastic. I love Dave Grohl's light sort of drumming on this, and the accents, and the way he sort of gives it that sort of bigger sound with playing dynamically soft. That's extremely hard to do. It takes a good drummer to do that without overpowering. So he's done a fantastic job there. It's a haunting version of the song. It's fitting for the album. It's probably one of the highlights of the record. I'll say that, guys, 100%. So I gave it 10 out of 10, guys, and never skip. I think it's a fantastic version. And even when I hear it on the radio now, I still turn it up and let it play. I don't ever skip this. I've never skipped it. No, I don't think I ever will. Andrew.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Greg, for reminding us about that. We're patriots on this channel, and I know that when it's Anzac Day here in Australia and New Zealand, we make a big call out to the people who fought for freedom and died for our right to be here. And so we want to do the same thing again for the men and women of the British Armed Services over the years who have fought and are continuing to fight for freedom, because it's a real thing. Freedom isn't given to you. You have to fight for it and hold it. It's not a right. You got to fight for it. And for all those men and women who have done that and continue to, on behalf of myself, God bless you.
Yes.
Yeah. We will remember them.
Yes. God bless. 100%.
All right, boys. So Pennyroyal Tea off in Utero. Have I pronounced it right? In Utero? Utero.
In utero.
In utero. In utero.
Tea. Look, it's a great song, guys. It's I'll be honest with you, it's not a standout track for me. It's in the middle of the album. I suppose if you're sitting there in the studio at MTV, Simon, you're probably getting captivated and pulled along with it. I do prefer the version off the album, Brad. It's a good song. Nothing going on really for me here on this track, but I've given that 8 out of 10. Solid album filler. But otherwise, not doing much for me, Rock Professor.
No, I think it's just Kurt on his own, isn't it? He's not, there's no band to, it's a sort of unadorned, plain version of the song, really. And I don't think there's very much. Pennyroyal Tea. Royalty just reminds me of the Joe Bonamassa album. Every time I look at it, I can't sort of get that out of my head in an odd way. But I'm sure they're not connected. But apparently, Pennyroyal Tea is a type of herbal tea historically used for medicinal purposes. So I think there's kind of the title refers that the illness and the mental health problems clearly. But yeah, I gave it 7 out of 10. I might even skip it occasionally. I think you've got to be slightly in the mood for it as a song, and I think that because it's just him and an acoustic guitar, it's a particular mood, particular piece, and so I've listened to it a lot this week, and sometimes you get the idea of it halfway through, so I've sort of gone on to the next one, kind of thing. Not gonna lie. so yeah, 7 out of 10 for me. But as I say, I think you've got to be in. This is one of the tracks where I think you've got to be in the mood for it to really go for it. But that's the thing. So where are we? Brad. That's it.
Pennyroyal Tea. Look, I'm going to back Andrew up 100% here. I 100% prefer the version off In Utero than this one. I do like this song. I'm not a fan of the acoustic version. I think it's it's lacking that. It's not a song that you can roar it down and go bare on this one, because it's got such power in the drumming on the In Utero version. That maybe that's being biased because I love Dave Grohl's drumming on Nevermind, and especially In Utero. I love it. I think he shines on In Utero as a drummer and makes that album outstanding. But it is, knowing Kurt's no longer with us, it's changed this version of the song. I would have skipped this 100% back in the day, but I wouldn't skip it now. I think Cobain's voice on this, you can really hear anguish, pain, disillusionment. It's a very intimate version of the song, and for that reason, I've given it 8 out of 10 and never a skip. Definitely back in the day, I would never have given it that, but for that and that alone, I think it's worth 8 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, guys. Peace through strength, Carl. 100%.
Yes.
Remember that. Dumb is the next track, folks, that we're going to be talking about. Again, off In Utero. I like this track. And, it's pretty easy, the reasons why, the ingredients which piqued my interest into this track. It's the bass is back, Brad.
Yeah.
And the cello is in the front of the mix on this. We've had hints of it on the previous tracks, but the cello is back. Well, on this track for me, for my ears. I love it. It's nothing special, nothing much going on here. It's just a great little track on an album that has a few tracks. I'd never skip this. I probably, like Pennyroyal Tea back in the day, Brad, I may have skipped this track too, but I've given it a solid, and it's a big push to give it an 8, Rock Professor, but I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's never a skip.
Yes, I mean, I think it's about again, it's kind of I think that having a second guitar and a cello on it gives it a musical depth that that I think is enhances it for sure. And the cello gives, as I said earlier, gives it a kind of melancholic edge as well, the way that it's used, and it reminds me of reminds you always of "Time of Your Life" by Green Day. That got that kind of that cello thing. Well, that cello part is the classic bit of that song, isn't it? Otherwise, straightforward. But that kind of beautiful kind of harmony cello line that they put in the middle of that, and this reminds me of that a lot. So when I don't know, I can't remember that. This will be first. So, but that kind of arrangement thing that they did here is gives it a real three-dimensional quality. I think that it's it's okay. It's not. It didn't sort of set a light for me particularly. As I say, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Again, I wouldn't skip it, but I'll let it play through. It's not a very long song. I wouldn't play through, but yeah, 7 for me. Solid 7. Brad.
Dumb.
Yes.
I think
Is that a comment on my score?
I'm
Yes.
here.
Dumb.
Oh,
I'm not commenting on anyone here. I'm just saying it could possibly be about me. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's the acoustic. I mean, the guitars sound great. The bass is back. It's there. It sounds great. The cello sounds outstanding. I think it's a real sort of moving cello line. It really invokes a bit of emotion, which I really love. I love good Dave Grohl's restrained drumming, and I love the BVs that are thrown in there, especially towards the end. I think the cello sounds very lush. It's the way they've recorded this is fantastic. It's haunting. I mentioned on the first song a Beatle-ish sort of folk vibe. This has got a Beatle vibe to me, this song. I can hear, the cello, the arrangement. I think there's a very Lennon influence on this song, the way it's written, possibly. It's got a, it's got a bittersweet and introspective sort of vibe to it. I think it's drawing out Cobain's vulnerability in this song. I don't know whether he's written it about himself or what. I don't know, but it's a very cool version of the song. I do prefer the version on In Utero, but it's very hard to bring these songs into an acoustic vibe, and I think it's done really well here. I gave this one 9 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
cheers, mate. And thank you, Rock Professor, and thanks, Gretch Zeppelin, for joining us. Always a pleasure, bro. Good, thank you. Polly's the next track, and that's off Nevermind. And if you've watched the documentary on the making of Nevermind, you'll see how they recorded the song with Kurt just laying back against on a couch on a settee in the engineer's box, in the recording box, Brad playing it, and Butch just being a great producer. Simon grabs a mic and mics him playing it laying down, and it gets on the album. So this is the track that we heard that gave us an idea that Kurt could play acoustically, Brad, because it was on Nevermind.
Yeah.
And I spoke to people over the years, and this got skipped by a lot of people off Nevermind.
Yes.
And I'm probably one of those guys that may have skipped it too, to be fair. But I like the version on Nevermind, and I love this version. It's an old song, goes back to 1987. Speaking, I think it's a song about a girl that was doing self-harm or something like that, so, that the band may...
It's about a girl who survived abduction incident in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah. That they may or may not have known, but it was, from that perspective, when I found that out, okay, it's pretty deep song for a band to be talking about. I love the riff, Brad. It's a great riff. and again, I'm just going to give it a solid 8. It's pretty close to the original. You know, there's not much going on. And as usual, it's one that I won't skip, Simon.
No, it has a kind of. I mean, the second guitar and the cello. There's not really any drums on it of any great import, as it might be just some general tapping in the background, but there's not really anything. And but I think that the bass as well is is just in there, and another great bass playing thing, and I think that gives it the depth. But it's, yes, in general, it's an acoustic song. It's a song played on acoustic guitar, so pretty much played straight through. With a bit of embellishment from the things. I give it a 7 out of 10, but I wouldn't skip it. It's it's got a cool vibe to it, and quite haunting and minimalist kind of arrangement to it. That no, that's and a story as well, which is always good. But yes, Brad, 2.
Yeah, look, I agree with you guys, especially what you said there, Simon. It's very haunting and minimalistic. I like the acoustic vibe. On this, I like the Nevermind version. I grew on me. I'll be a lot honest, Andrew, where you said this song got skipped a lot by people you knew back in the day, and I think I may have been one of those people at the start when I first bought this record. But over the years, this record became you play it from start to finish type, because it's got a bit of a flow. I'm talking about Nevermind, the album. And then for me, this is a great version of it. I think the vocals sound great. It's very straightforward. It's pretty true to the arrangement, I think, from Nevermind. It doesn't really sort of, Cobain sounds very calm. I will say this: the vocal delivery is very emotionless. It's got no emotion in it. It contrasts very, differently to some other songs on here. Anyway, the way he's singing it, the lyrical content. They're sort of grim lyrics, aren't they? I mean, it's got that vibe, and he emulates that with his vocal, I think. I like this version of it, the acoustic vibe. I think it's 8.5 out of 10. I gave it, guys. And again, back in the day, I probably wouldn't have given 8.5. I probably would have given it 6.5, maybe. But I'll give it a couple more, because I think this week it's stood out a lot more to me than I thought it did. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10.
Cheers, bro. Appreciate that. We'll rank this track, guys, and we'll throw up a couple of photos after this on a plane, if that's okay. So thanks, Ellen. She loves the subtle touch from the cello, great harmony and vocals, and she's given it 8 out of 10. Gretch said it was a favourite with his friends, and they'd often sing along to it. So thank you, guys, for sharing us, obviously, your thoughts and impressions and experiences with these songs, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's... we're not audiophiles here. We're not listening to frequencies and bass meters and stuff like that. Wrong show.
I love the difference in opinions on stuff anyway. I think it's great.
On a plane, Brad's off Nevermind, that masterpiece of an album, one of the greatest albums ever from the 90s. Love the vocals on this track by Kurt. And again, the interplay between Kurt and Pat on this track's pretty solid. You can hear it, and if you watch the video, you can see it. It's a good track. I've given this a solid 9.5 out of 10, and it's never a skip, Rock Professor.
Yeah, that's right. I think, we should also say it's in a drop D tuning as well. In the beginning, you
can hear them tuned down.
No.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, it gives it a kind of slightly different feel, doesn't it? It's slightly different. And I think that that a lot of these things, that it's the nuances that bring the differences. They're not sort of big, flag waving differences. They are subtle differences of little bits of instrumentation. as I say, dropping it down to a drop D tuning, and that, as you said, that interplay with Pat Smear on the second guitar and the cello as well. There's the cello in there, giving that continuity from the previous tracks, and some nice. It's got quite an insistent pace. There's a bit more, energy to it. It's a bit faster, but it has that kind of drop down and the two vocals, the harmony vocals as well. Again, these songs are all about the subtlety that that is brought to them, and it's all about it's quite introspective, and it's clearly about Kurt's thoughts on fame, insecurity, self-doubt. All those things are in the lyrics, and it's interesting that it's the 11th track of Nevermind. They don't play any of the hits or anything. He plays what I would call the deep cuts off it, really. The ones that aren't necessarily jump out at you, come as you are, etc. But so I think, yes, that I gave this 9 out of 10. I think it has a kind of subtlety to it that is really cool. But, so 9 out of 10 from me, never a skip. Brad.
On a plane, I mean, I have to agree with you, Simon, that one of the things that back in the day when this came out that disappointed me was some of the bigger cuts weren't on it, other than Come As You Are. But then I thought about it, and I thought, especially this week listening to it, I'm not sure some of those songs would have transposed across to acoustic that well, unless he did something like Clapton did to Layla and completely change them up. You know what I mean? Make them almost like a completely different song. Because, I mean, you couldn't imagine Smells Like Teen Spirit done acoustically. I would just, I'd hate to sort of think that they'd just played it identically the same with acoustic guitars, because that would not worked. So I think this song in particular is a deep cut off the album, but it's one of the songs I really like off the album, Nevermind. I love the bass playing on this song. The acoustic guitars sound great. The drumming, it's light, it's dynamic. I think the acoustic parts are weaving together really well. Like I said, the bass line's anchoring this song completely. It's got that sort of, the lyrical content is, introspective. I think the acoustic rendition brings out the song's lyrics a bit more. I think makes it a little bit more personal, grounded. I love this version of it. I think it's a 9 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, bro. All right, I'm going to flick through some pics. So here is the album cover. Again, if you haven't checked out the video, go and have a peek. It's well worth it, and it's interesting because when they were designing the set that we mentioned in the intro, a couple of people made a remark to Kurt that it looks like a funeral, and he liked that. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The Rock Professor and Brad have spoken a lot about this man here in the Rankins. So Dave Grohl, there he is there. He looks like he's about 12 years old. His mum's dressed him for the school social. Brad looks like he's, getting ready to go to the... But don't let the looks there put you off, because you're looking at a master percussionist there, and he enjoys what he's doing because he can see him bouncing up and down on that seat, Brad and Simon. He's loving what he's doing on this album, isn't he?
I think he really enjoyed this acoustic or this unplugged.
Yeah.
I think he really enjoyed it.
Yeah, bouncing away there. So there's Nirvana there. Obviously, you can see Kurt there, the left-handed guitarist with his Martin guitar. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when I put up another couple of shots. And Chris, the bass player, huge influence again on this recording that you and I and the Rock Professor have spoken about. Again, the red curtains, black candles, bit of a somber scene, isn't it?
Yeah, very emotional look setting. It's got a bit somber, a bit, 100%. Yeah.
So there is a photo there of Kurt. Now that guitar is a D18. Thanks to the internet, I've found out that that guitar there with the pickups and the knobs was a guitar produced by Martin. It wasn't something that Kurt had grabbed and mangled in his attic or in the what do they call it in America? The basement of the house. He bought that and converted it to a left hand. And if you've been following guitar news, an Australian who owns Rode microphones, Brad, bought that guitar, the world's most expensive guitar, Brad. $6 million,
Right, yeah.
brother.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. 6 mil. Wow.
$6 million, Rock Professor.
Quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and when we get our this channel going properly and we can earn $6 million a month, we'll all be happy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, he makes a reference on a song about another guitar but we'll talk about that when we get to that song. So there's a couple of more pics here of Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was surprisingly very drawn and skinny at this point. Like he looks fuller because he's wearing the cardigan and all that stuff and layers, but he was very skinny here, guys.
Yeah.
Wasting away a little bit.
There's one of the meat puppets, and we'll talk about them soon. Playing bass.
Yep.
And there's the other meat puppet there playing the guitar that Pat Smear was using. So these guys have just jumped in, grabbed those instruments, and they've rocked on. And again, Mr. Wikipedia has got the information right, and it's in the biographies. The MTV studios were a little bit pissed off that they were getting these guys called the Meat Puppets and these no-name bands, Brad. They wanted Soundgarden, and they wanted Nirvana, and not Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and to come and join them. But Kurt said, whose gig is this? It's my gig. And there's the last pic there of the band. Obviously, Kurt, that skinny fellow there on the top next to him is Dave Grohl, who's incidentally, if you're following rock and roll news, is retreated because he was saying that he was leading a wholesome family life and found out that he was leading another wholesome family life with somebody else as well.
Leading several wholesome family lives.
Rock and roll, Brad. It's rock and roll, bro.
Well, let me just say it straight out. I mean, we can laugh. Their lives, his life is very different to everybody else's. You know what I mean? It's not offending him in any way, shape, or form, but he has a very different life to the normal, everyday life. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And on the bottom, the Pat is next to Chris there, who was a touring member of the band that we mentioned. So
yes,
part of the deal. So thank you guys for allowing me to put those pics up.
Yeah.
What track are we doing now? Something in the way.
Something in the way. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Something in the way.
I've got to be honest, guys. I was a little bit torn, and I still don't know what to give the, something in the way. I just love Laurie's cello on this track. She shines on this track. That droning cello sound is just remarkable. Spooky vibe, sad song.
Yeah.
Just a sad song. Emotive vocals from Kurt on this track, and then you've got that cello coming in. You know, I don't know. I don't know whether to give it an 8 or a 10 because, yeah, I'm going to go. I'll give it a 9. But I love this track. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Always loved this track, Brad, when it came out. You know, just that spooky. You know, that cello. Wow, Rock Professor.
Yeah, good point by Greg Zeppelin. Something in the way reminds him of Radiohead, which is that's an interesting.
I can hear that.
Yeah. And hadn't struck me, but I think that definitely is a great point, Gretch. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the first verse just voice and guitar, and then the band come in for the chorus, and then they drop out for the second verse. So you've got that kind of what I think of as being that kind of it's an acoustic version of the loud quiet bit, isn't it? That Nirvana, helped pioneer along with the Pixies and stuff. That kind of loud quiet thing, but it's done on an acoustic level, not a loud electric guitar level. I do, Kurt's, voice is fragile on here, and I hate to blow you up, Andrew, but the cello player is Kurt Canning on this, not Kurt Canning, not the woman. But doesn't matter. I know what you mean. The cello does give that kind of haunting underscore that is makes it great track. Paint a dark picture of Cobain's struggles, and stuff. So it's quite a heavy song and things. I gave it 8.5 out of 10, but I'd never skip it as a thing. So, Brad.
For me, it's always been a very moving, powerful song. I love the vocal delivery on this version. I love it on the electric version too. While the version of Nevermind as well. I think the cello, like you mentioned, both of you mentioned, it's very haunting. Adds a mournful sort of sound to it. I think for me, it's sparse, it's haunting. The vocals are very soft. Cobain, obviously, again, a Lennon vibe for me with his vocal approach. And then he used to sing a soft song. I think this song really has that emotional vibe to it. It's bleak, it's introspective. There's a sense of isolation there, with Cobain. I think it's a fantastic version. It's one of the best songs on the entire package, Unplugged. I gave it 10 out of 10 and never a skip.
And I can see why you gave it a 10. Yeah. I can see why.
Yeah. I've never skipped this song either. I've never skipped it all. So it's great.
No, nor would I. But just getting back to that $6 million for a Martin guitar, they must have had a lot of bidders for that guitar, guys. Yeah. 6. That's US dollars too.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
As opposed to New Zealand dollars, which 6 million New Zealand dollars. What was that? 25 quid.
Oh. Yeah. 6 million US. That's twice.
12 million.
Twice.
New Zealand dollars.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
The import tax.
So okay, this is where we get a set change, guys. So I invite you, if you haven't already done, if you're watching on a replay, if you are listening to Spotify, go and check out the videos, please, because this is where the meat puppets come in, and we spoke about them a little bit ago when we were showing some pics. So the meat puppets, you've got Kirk, one of the Kirks playing guitar, and Chris Kirk on bass.
Yep.
And you've got Kurt Cobain, all these Kirks and Chris's, Kirk and Chris's, and you've got Kurt Cobain on the lighter, Brad.
Yes.
It's just sitting there.
Fire!
Yeah. Just doing the vocals. So yeah. Okay. So let's get on to the tracks, and we can talk about them, I suppose. Incredible vocal performance from Kurt on this. Clearly, to my ears, he's a little bit excited there that he's got, a bit of a change in backline there.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things about this track that I want to point out to you guys. So we got Chris off bass playing a Gibson acoustic on this track, and then you've got one of the Meat Puppets playing bass.
Yep.
And I don't know why they did that. Because the song suffers because you can't hear the bass. To my ear. When you watch it, Brad, you get this appreciation that there's these guys there, so that kind of makes up for it. But you just do not have that bass power, that energy that you had from Chris on these previous tracks on this track. So is it a disappointment? Well, yeah. Well, it's an observation. I can clearly hear it, and I'll be keen to hear what you guys have to say about it. But it's made up for by the incredible vocal performance by Kurt. I can't say that. I won't say that here. I'll wait for the next song. Rock Professor. I've given this. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. Rock Professor.
Yeah, I think that I think that it's at this point when we've had sort of 3 sort of fairly plain songs, haven't we, on the go, and clearly changing up to bring 2 new people in, a different kind of vibe and a different kind of feel. And as we said, this is all about quite subtle changes. They don't bring a sort of massive difference to the sound, but they bring, as you've said, the kind of 2 guitars, and not such a prominent bass, a second vocal, and I think that kind of that high voice contrast, and I think that's Kirkwood or Chris, one of the Kirkwoods anyway, and not Kurt Cobain, and then that kind of contrast with Kurt Cobain gives it a different shades to it that we've not had before, really. The kind of thing, and the 2 guitar instrumental, that they play, the 2 little guitar figures that play through it, again gives it a sort of, there's a kind of elements of jangly country inspired sound in there, I felt, kind of thing, that we haven't really had that before. But again, it's kind of like, it's quite subtle changes in the tone and the, and you can see that bringing new people onto the stage is visually, a bit different and stuff. And people having a swap round, and I can see that visually that would work as well. I gave this 8 out of 10 and not a skip. It's I think it's I understand why it's here, and I understand what's being done here in terms of dynamics and tonality. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Brad.
For me, the visual of this, like watching the video, changed my score for this, I guess. I'll put it that way, because
For the better or worse.
it kind of made a bit more sense. I think if you were to just listen to this without watching the video performance, you wouldn't quite understand what's going on, maybe. Or you wouldn't hear what's actually happening on stage there. It's not very apparent when you're just listening to it. You've got to watch it as well. But for me, without repeating too much of what you guys have already said, I think there's a pretty sort of urethral landscape, or soundscape, sorry, not landscape, soundscape, going on there. It's hypnotic. For me, I gave it up. Well, my original score was less, but I gave it an 8 out of 10 and never a skip after watching it this week. And again, I remember watching it back in the day. The visual of it changed my opinion of it. You know what I mean? And this week, same thing. When I watched it, I was like, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense to me. I think I normally probably would have given this maybe a 6.5, 7 maybe, but I gave it an 8. 8 out of 10, never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, bro. When you're in Sydney next, I want you to go to Road HQ, see your mates there, and take a photo of that $6 million acoustic, okay?
Oh, I can do that. No problem at all.
Cheers, bro. Thanks. Just up the road, bro.
Just up the road.
Just up the road.
Yeah. I just walk in like I own a joint. Yeah. Give me that.
Hey, I'm on the British Electric Blues show, man. I'm one of the hosts on. Come on.
T-shirt on and everything.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, I'll just flex, you know. I'll start flexing.
Yeah.
My God.
That should open doors. Why is this not opening doors, man?
Yeah. I'm sure you can just walk straight in and see it on the wall. I'm sure that would be the case for $5 million guitar. Yeah. Walk straight in, grab it off the wall and start strumming it.
Is this thing in tune?
Yeah. Damn, it's strung upside down. I can't play the damn thing.
Jeez.
Oh me, oh my. Oh me is the next track, guys. Again with the meat puppets on the back line. We're not going to go through. We've already mentioned that. This is where it gets really, really interesting on this track for me, guys, because now you're seeing an incredible performance by the musicians Brad and Simon. And again, you know, we're going to make reference because we're allowed to the video performance, because the video performance enhances a lot of what we're talking about. And the individuals clearly, after whatever may have been from the first track together, those cobwebs or whatever, certainly, or nerves, have got to a point where on the second track they're shining, and I can hear it. I love that solo, Brad and Simon. The guitar solo by Chris, I think, one of the meat puppets, is fantastic. I've given this, Brad, 10 out of 10. I just think it's an incredible performance. You know, no bass, never mind. Still 10 out of 10.
I like what you did
there.
Rock
Very
Professor.
good.
Thank you.
Bass, never mind. Honestly. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is kind of better than the previous one, isn't it? Better integration of the Kirkwood brothers into the into the performance and into the song and things. And it's you know, as you said, the bass is more subtle because Chris Novoselic is playing guitar on this. So it's and again, you know, Kurt doesn't play anything on it at all. But I agree, is that it's got some really nice harmony vocals on it and really nice solo. Again, kind of not been really any guitar solo. So having guitar solo is a subtle difference. You know, that brings something. But you know, it's not kind of out there difference, is it? It's just kind of, you think, oh look, there's a guitar solo. I haven't had one of those yet, kind of thing. You know, it's got a bit of, you know, playing the riff on the Man Who Sold the World and things, but very much in that guitar figure at the end and things that you know, is a particular thing. But yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 10. That's pretty cool. You know, this album's about subtleties, isn't it? About subtle changes of shade and tone, hue. So it's yeah, yes, 9 out of 10 for me. Never skip. Brad.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty similar to you gentlemen with this one. I mean, before this MTV Unplugged, Nirvana MTV Unplugged, I'd never heard of the Meat Puppets, never listened to a song of theirs, never had an idea of what the songs they were, when I heard Nirvana playing these, I'm going, what the hell are these? That's what I mean. It made more sense to see the video.
Yep.
Because I mean, for me, I was like, who are the Meat Puppets? I have no idea. But seeing the guys on stage playing made more sense. I do prefer Chris playing bass than acoustic guitar. I mean, he's obviously a good acoustic guitar player as well and whatnot, but I love his bass playing, so I think it's missed a little bit. Without sort of doubling up and repeating everything you guys have said, the guitar solo, this or that. For me, I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Cheers, bro. Thank you for that. So we're up to the third and the last with the Meat Puppets, if I'm right. If my notes are correct, guys. Lake of Fire. Which was incidentally released here as a single, but certainly played as a single for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Love the riff, Simon. Exceptional vocals by Kurt. And Brad, I got to tell you, that guitar solo, you know, if we thought the guitar solo on Oh Me was exceptional, or pretty good, or darn good, the solo on this is just, yeah, fantastic. And it grew on me over the years, you know, and, you know, I just love the lyrics. I think it's a great message, you know, like, you go and check it out. It's fantastic. The band's having fun again when they're recording this. Rock Professor, I've given this a Brad score. I love this song. Yeah, I think it's incredible. The solo, especially, is just fantastic. Rock Professor.
Yes, I think, you know, that kind of chugged acoustic under the solo guitar, and I think that solo is again, the difference is it's a much more bluesy guitar solo, isn't it? We've not really had that before. You know, the other stuff is not. The previous track has a much more of a sort of guitar figure, kind of, you know, little worked out little sort of melody that he plays. Whereas to me, definitely with that sort of rundown is you know, much more bluesy kind of guitar playing, which is again, we talk about bringing subtle differences to to the performances, and you know, I think that that's certainly it. I think, you know, great vocal performance by, and really nice harmonies as well by backing vocals as well. 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Right.
For me, I heard this song a lot. It was played on the radio a lot as well at the time. It's not played that much for me now. I don't really hear it on the radio, but when this album came out, this was played on the radio a lot. I like this song. It's got a real haunting feel to it. Without sort of repeating everything you guys, I think Kurt Cobain's vocal is challenged a lot in this song. You can hear his voice really straining on some of those, what I would say, more top-endy stuff vocally. He's really sort of, or whether he's intentionally doing it, but it does sound like he's challenging himself. But in saying that, that gives it that really cool, edgy sort of thing that's going on vocally there. I love that, because, you know, vocalists shouldn't be perfect. You don't want to hear, you know, that perfect vocal every time. I like a little bit of an edge to it. You know what I mean? I gave it a 9 out of 10, guys. Never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you, mate. Gretch Zeppelin says Lake of Fire, great lyrics. So we're on to the second last song. All Apologies. Huge hit. Rock Professor and Brad. Huge hit off in Utero. I think it may have been what the first single off it, Brad. But clearly and easily identifiable as one of the great Nirvana songs. Love all versions of it. And I want to make a point that you just said about the vocals not being perfect. This is a perfect example of Kurt sticking to the song as it is presented in the previous album. Fantastic, great, you know. But he's not singing it. He he doesn't care
Hmm.
that he's rough around the edges, and in fact, he likes that, you know. So he's doing that on purpose as a musician. He's getting into the vibe rock professor of an unplugged set. Clearly knows the history of playing acoustic music in the history of rock and roll and blues. Knows that, you know, that's what for a couple of generations musicians did before they had acoustic guitars, electric guitars. So all they were doing was playing, you know, these instruments. And All Apologies for me, you know, is a build up for the last song. You know, it's definitely a song that would have got everybody in the audience excited. I love the song. I'd never skip it. I love all versions of it. And Kurt's singing on this. It's just incredible. Jonathan Nicholas says All Apologies is Kurt's best song. You know, it's this, yeah. You know, it's definitely a standout track on the album for me. I'm going to let you guys talk about this now, but you know, I'm giving this a Brad score too. I just think it's phenomenal. Phenomenal track. Rock Professor, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Yes, it's I mean, I don't know this so well because I'm not that familiar with In Utero, but it's got that really nice little guitar figure at the beginning, as you said, more kind of very kind of strained vocals, you know, to clearly putting his heart into it, you know,
Sure.
completely passionate, you know, and that kind of, you know, the way he sings, you know, is clearly, you know, the mirror of his inner turmoil and whatever, you know, kind
You
of,
nailed it.
you know, his unrest, and I think that you know that's where the power is, isn't it? It's
Especially when he comes up to the chorus.
yeah,
You know, when
and
he's
you know,
boy, jeepers.
yeah, that's right.
Sorry for
I've
interrupting.
written no, that's right. No, I agree. I've written he sounds quite ragged in the chorus, you know, sort of you know, letting it go kind of thing, and I think that it's you know, and also I think that
It's almost like he's saying sorry to somebody, like he's like when you're having a fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry. I've
Yeah,
never done anything like
agreed.
that though. I just from movies that I've seen.
Lovely.
Sorry.
Just from movies. No, it's right. So I mean, I think you know that, you know, gives it power, and gives it, you know, and again the you know, we're back to the sort of three piece with Kera Shaley on cello. So, and I don't know why they have three different cello players. It's a bit odd. Maybe they bring something slightly different. I couldn't tell what it was though. But again, you know, that give it that kind of slightly sort of atmospheric, you know, chilling quality. I think the cello's a great instrument for that sort of thing, atmosphere, and what you want to think. And you know, and again, great bass playing. And I think, you know, that Chris Novoselic back on bass is you know, is an improvement, you know, from my point of view. I agree. I give it a 10 out of 10 and never a skip. It's you know, one of the standout tracks on here for sure. Brad.
Yeah. All Apologies. I've always loved this song. This was the second single off In Utero from my
Second, okay.
Yeah, and
right. Heart-shaped box.
And
yeah.
I have to say, I was always expecting to hear Heart-Shaped Box on the MTV Unplugged. I was really hoping that they would have done that acoustically, because that one would have transpired well acoustically. But I was glad that they did this one. And, you know, I'm very familiar with this song from In Utero. It's one of my favorites off the album. I love the bass, the cello, the acoustics. You know, it gives that sort of melancholic sort of texture with the cello. The bass line, you know, Chris is a big part of Nirvana's sound, 100%. I think that in this song, it plays quite a heavy part on this recording as well, just because of the bass on this acoustic stuff is very important. It's filling out that sort of register that's not there with the acoustics. It's great. Cobain's vocal on this, you know, I have to say it. I've said it 2 or 3 times now. Very Lennon-ish. Not that he sounds like John Lennon, but in the rawness of his vocal. He loved Lennon. The making. Andrew, you mentioned the making of Nevermind. The producer talks about how he used to try and get him to double track his vocals because he said that's what Lennon did. So he'd go and double track his vocal because Lennon used to do that. So it's a well-written song, extension of that whole influence of the Beatles thing for me. I gave it 100 out of 10, and it's the standout track on the album for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Andrew. Yeah.
I just want to remind you folks that Jonathan Nicholas is in the chat. We've interviewed him here on the channel. He is from Wales, and he is a Robert Johnson nut. So if you haven't already subscribed to his channel, there it is there. Please go and check Jonathan out. Fuck you all. This is the last song of the evening.
Thank you very much for that. Should we go now? He's just told us to F off, Brad. I swear I heard that.
That was just out of the blue,
out of the left field.
That's just unexpected.
That's what Kurt says on for the song that we're going to be talking about, the last track on the album. And it's a little bit funny, I just, we've been making references to you to check out various videos associated to this album. But yeah, go and check this out. It's a little bit funny. As the band have a conversation about.
Isn't that a song? It's a little bit funny.
Yeah. And then they have a bit of a conversation about Lead Belly, whether or not Lead Belly. Well, Lead Belly apparently is, according to their conversation, Brad, their favourite artist. So go and check out some biographies because there's conversations from various authors about whether or not that's true. Certainly Kurt knew Lead Belly. He'd been listening to blues, Brad, right, from an early age, and he speaks and talks about that himself. So there's, no surprise there. And we were talking a little bit about that $6 million for a guitar that he owned that was bought by an Aussie. Apparently somebody from the Lead Belly estate got in touch with him and asked him if he'd be keen to buy a guitar apparently that Lead Belly owned for $500,000, and he went to Geffen, asked Geffen if Geffen would buy it for him, and Geffen told him to go and get effing.
I thought that was a joke. I thought wasn't that just a joke. Him saying I went and asked David Geffen if he'd get it for me. I thought that was just a joke.
I think so.
But I could be wrong.
So Nicholas is right here. At one point, Kurt was going to do a Lead Belly album with Mark Lanigan.
Lanigan.
So Jonathan is right. So, certainly from Kurt's point of view, Lead Belly was definitely, one of his favourite artists. So, and just to give you a bit of a backstory, because this track for me, the last two tracks especially, so we've got this powerful Nirvana song, Brad and Simon, leading into this, blues masterpiece. It's an incredible song. Kurt's vocals, I love the way that Chris brings his bass in slowly, Brad, on this track. It's perfect. He's got just perfect technique. You mentioned before, about him being a student of Paul McCartney. The guy has mentioned that he was, and he knows that instrument precisely, doesn't he? He just does the right notes. And I had a strong appreciation for him as a bass player after listening to this a couple of times in preparation for the show, guys. you know, I completely forgotten about the guy as a bass player and his contribution to this band. It can't be neglected.
Mhm.
And I love the drone from the cello on this. We've mentioned that before, but the drone on this track just, you know, gives you that kind of puts you in this kind of amazingly depressed state. I can't explain it, guys. It's like you feel guilty about liking something that's extremely sad and depressing. You know, you're not supposed to, but I do.
Yeah.
So I'm being honest with you. And then when, you know, you've got Kurt's vocals, and then when he gets onto my girl, and he's just screaming.
Oh yeah.
Now, there's anger there. There is anger, and we had no, you know, and this is the first time that I'm going to be talking about anything after Kurt's passing away. You know, you guys have mentioned it a few times in your song analysis about, you know, Kurt's state of mind. I had no idea back in the day, but it's not until you realise and read and pick up things over the years, Brad and Simon, you know, we know exactly who he's talking to when he's screaming that out. And, you know, it's just haunting.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to pass it over. This is a huge score for me, guys. I think the
Huge
last
score.
two songs, yeah, the last two songs in particular are just, you know, can't be discounted. But great version, great playing, E flat. I just love it. Again, I'm going to pass it on to you guys. I've got a couple of other points that I'm going to say about the song, but I'll wait till you guys say something. Right, Professor?
Well, yes, it's what's that? I mean, apparently, Kurt Cobain, he played on Mark Lanigan's 1990 version of this song, which appears on Mark Lanigan's album, The Winding Sheet. And as you said, I mean, it's all about the emotion, isn't it? It's all about, you know, dragging it up. You know, if you want to know what the blues is, this is as good a point to start as any, really, in terms of it, you know, the feel. And as you said, it starts off just vocals and guitar kind of thing, and the drums and the bass come in. You know, the bass, Chris following the melody, playing the bass following the melody, which is always interesting, that McCartney-esque kind of way. And that really nice bit where at 2:09 when he whispers "shiver for me," which is quite spooky, and then it's that really nice cello bit. And you drop down to just skeletal instrumentation bit, and as you said, he builds up to that kind of screaming bit at the end and stuff, which Neil Young described as unearthly, like a werewolf, unbelievable. I think just about sums it up, really. It's you know, summoning up the depths as a, you know, as a thing. And it's no wonder that they didn't do an encore after this. I think there was suggestions they were going to do an encore. It's like, I don't think you go back after this and do an encore, to be honest. I think you've done, aren't you? You know, the vocal equivalent of smashing your instruments up and leaving the stage with a bit of feedback and not much else. You know, it's an amazing performance. It's an amazing song, and 100 out of 10 from me, and never a skip. Brad.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, you guys have said everything pretty much I wanted to say. Where did you sleep last night? I will say this: when I first heard that Nirvana were doing MTV Unplugged, I was pretty disappointed with the amount of covers on it and the lack of original material that they were putting on it. I was hoping for more of their own songs. You know what I mean? That's what I was hoping for. But this is one cover that I was quite pleased that they were doing and put on there, because I did know this song before Nirvana actually covered it, but Cobain kind of makes it his own. He makes this song his own. He gives it that vocal delivery is, it's calm to anguished, and the final scream. I mean, there's so much impact there that it's desperate, it's haunting. Cobain's very raw in it. It's chilling. It's a chilling version of the song. It's a very powerful ending song for the album and for the performance. And let's not forget, this is an album of an actual performance. You know what I mean? So the set list was designed this way, and we're just listening to the set list. And what a great way to end a gig. I mean, you know, Simon, you mentioned it. You couldn't really come back on after this. Would have to be the encore. You know what I mean? You couldn't really play anything after this, and I don't think Kurt's voice probably would have held out much longer after that anyway. So, yeah, I too gave it 100 out of 10 and never a skip. It's it's definitely a highlight for the record. And Andrew, you mentioned it as being a big part of the reason why we did this album this week.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a blues classic. It's up there, and I'm glad that you guys mentioned too. That the executives at MTV were expecting 2 or 3 set encores, but Kurt, according to a couple of biographies I've read, had it planned this way. Again, you got to remember too, guys, that in 1994. And these guys were huge international acts. That Seattle attitude, Pearl Jam weren't selling tickets through ticketing agencies. They weren't doing videos. They stopped doing videos because, they didn't want MTV telling them what they had to do and stuff like that. So, Nirvana telling MTV executive Simon to go and get nicked. We've done it.
Yep.
See you later.
That's our thing. We're done. Yeah.
Which is a little bit different today now, isn't it? Because you've got artists today who would shit themselves, would be absolutely scared that they'd be counseled because, the executives tell them everything now, don't they?
Yeah. Well, this was a golden era for music. Unfortunately, we'll probably never see an era like this again, I think. The 90s I'm talking about.
Yep.
I think the 90s were equally as powerful as what the 70s were musically. I think the 80s were a bit different, but I think the 90s, in looking back at them, I personally took the 90s granted when I was living it. The music was phenomenal that was coming out.
Was all guitar based. You go and look at the top 10 or the top 20 from 1990 all the way up to 94, 95, and you'll be surprised how many bands in there were guitar based. But I agree with you, and I like that attitude that these guys brought. We talk about hair metal bands here sometimes on the channel, and some great bands out there, but these guys wearing denim and flannel shirts. Brad came in with that rock and roll attitude, that old rock and roll attitude of saying we're here to break the rules. It's about the music now. It's not about how you look.
Yep. I think the 90s.
Sorry, bro. It's not all about how you look. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not about how you look. It's the music that matters, and if you dig what we're wearing, cool. If you don't, they didn't care either. But there was something very powerful about the movement that was happening in the 90s and music. So, yeah, I kind of miss that. It's been a long time since the 90s that we've had anything, like that. Really, I don't think there'll ever be another period like that again.
No, and I thank you, boys, for allowing me to indulge on this. And if you'll already here at the 2-hour mark. We're going to be ending the stream soon. We do appreciate you. We do appreciate you hanging out for us. As ever, we always try and keep the shows to under at least 2 hours. But we're doing fine. We're tracking. There was a few songs on here, guys, that we spoke about. So thank you for allowing me, Brad and Simon, to talk about this. I think it's a great album. Will I have it on permanent rotation on my playlist? No. Are there a couple of songs on here that will always be dear to my heart, Brad and Simon? Yes. Would I watch the DVD on a semi-regular basis moving forward now? Probably. I probably would watch this DV once a year, Brad. I'll make a point of it because there is some stuff there. But I just want to say rest in peace, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. Can I just say?
I agree with that. I think that's a really good way of putting it. I mean, it is an album that has a particular vibe, atmosphere to it, and I think you've got to be in a particular mood to listen to it as in a thing. And I agree with you. It's not something you pick out every week on rotation, is it? It's a thing. It's kind of more of a special occasion thing where you think, I'm in the mood for this. I go back to it and listen to it again. So I agree with that. Sorry, Brad.
No.
Apologies.
No. I think it was your turn anyway. But can I just say, I know last week, Andrew, you said that deviating a little bit away from what we stand and do normally on the channel, but maybe people can comment if they've come this far. Maybe they can comment in the comment section whether they'd like to hear us do more Nirvana or not. That's all I'll say. I'll leave that at that because I think there was quite a relevance there. And I mean, I do hear, the references of like Beatles and all that sort of stuff in their music as well. Not the pop era of Beatles, not the early era. I'm talking the more, from Revolver and Rubber Soul Revolver and around that Peppers as well a little bit, but and White Album especially. I'm hearing a lot of that in Nirvana's music, and I think. But hey, we'll leave it to our wonderful subscribers to decide whether they'd like to hear more Nirvana ranked here or not. But I think personally think you've got to have seen the visual to be able to really appreciate this record because the setting, like you mentioned, Andrew, it looks like a funeral. It's got a vibe. So you pick up the warmth behind the performance from the visual. So I think you really have to watch it on DVD or your choice of streaming if it's on there or whatever. Yeah. I'm done, Andrew.
All right. So we're going to wind the show up. The Rock Professor's going to say g'day to you guys. Please subscribe to our channel. Who's got the pick for next week?
Simon.
Me,
the Rock Professor. So if the Rock Professor isn't going to let us know, because he likes to hold his cards to his chest.
I am going to say this time. So I'm going to say what we're doing. You're going to like it, boys. We're doing Straight Shooter next week. Bad Company's second record.
Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Love that album.
Beautiful.
You chose well.
We're going back to our British electric blues. You see, that's the trouble with Nirvana. You see, Nirvana Unplugged is neither British nor electric nor blues. Well, a bit of blues, but let's not.
No, you chose well. Straight Shooter's a great album.
Yeah.
I had that album.
Yeah, I've got it on CD. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I look forward to that. So we will be back next week. How many tracks are on that album, Simon?
Oh, a miserly 8 tracks.
Yeah.
It's okay. So we're doing. So I want to remind you folks that we're doing the original album. So if you go on Spotify, if there's any re-releases, there might be 20 on there. So we're just doing the original 8 tracks.
Well, there was a reissue disc which has all manner of stuff on it, but we're not doing that.
Yeah,
it's we're just going to do the straight 8-track original album, like we normally do.
Katie Lang, Constant Craving, great song, great. Yeah. Okay, Rock Professor, do you want to get us out of here because I got a dog biting my ankles.
Yeah, so Jonathan Nicholas, thank you very much. Johnny Heartbreaker, Gret Zeppelin, and Ellen, of course, Helen Toll. Thanks, Ellen. Scoring as well, which is fantastic. It's a great comment. Glad Gret, scrolling back up, we should say Rastco, Carla Murray as well. Thanks for joining, guys. Let's give a shout out to John ZD351. He's obviously busy doing something, or he's off ranking another album entirely Madonna. Carl, good to see you, Carl. I hope you're well, man, and it's all going well for you. That's great. If you, Greg Roberts June as well. Thanks, Greg, for dropping by. Even though I don't think it was quite your cup of tea, but that doesn't matter. It's fine. Thank you for dropping by. And Vitor Hugo Biasotto Maciera, thank you very much, Vitor, for dropping by. Fantastic to see you. And hopefully that's everyone. Brad Cook. Don't know who he is. Go, Gary Davlin. Gary Davlin, shouldn't forget Gary. Thanks, Gary, for dropping by. And yeah, have a great week, everyone. And we'll see you next week for Straight Shooter by Bad Company.
Yes.
Take it easy.
Well done. You chose well. You chose well. You chose well, young Jedi.
Well, Obi-Wan. And I've just noticed my my little title underneath. You know, I saw Led Zeppelin 1975.
Oh yeah.
Thank you
Hold
for
on.
putting that in. Thank you for putting that in. That made me laugh. Look at that. I saw Led Zeppelin 1975. Have I mentioned that before? That's what you need to put. Have I mentioned it before?
Are we out of here?
We're out of here.
Quick.
All right.
Take it easy, everyone. Fantastic stuff. Take it away, boss.
Pew.